like everyone else, we are so happy to be able to gather together in person here and meet, and so we're just so thankful and appreciative to see you all here. And we had a good learning experience yesterday with how we're going to conduct the vote in multiple rooms and things. So I just want to go over a few tips. Remind everybody we've got 2 different locations on property where this meeting is being held, and we also have people participating virtually. So for those virtual attendees, if you're virtual, your attendance is going to be captured automatically in the report as it's been all year. Please make sure and enter your full name so that we can accurately reflect that. If you're virtual and you need to speak, please raise your virtual hand and you will be acknowledged and promoted on screen. For voting, a pop-up will appear on your screen and those will be added to the total in-person votes. If you have a question and do not wish to speak, however, or be promoted, you can put it in the Q&A section, which is going to be moderated by Damon Elmore. And then the chat is enabled, but it's not going to be monitored. So just remember you're putting your information out there. What we're going to do today, that was a little bit different from yesterday as it relates to voting. Just so you all know, this is a voting-heavy meeting today. We will be calling for a vote, an in-person vote simultaneously in both rooms. We have someone stationed now in the other room who's going to be calling the vote. So we will have a motion. We will have discussion. We will make sure and have discussion, open discussion here, open discussion in the other room, and confirm there's no discussion virtually. Then we call the vote. We will have a simultaneous in-person vote that we will then get the report back because we knew we couldn't hear them yesterday anyway because of how the room is wired. And then we will do the poll. So just work with us and give us some grace as we get through this because it's a little bit to manage. Also, for those of you who haven't done it yet, they took it off the screen, our dedicated Wi-Fi network is SBG AM21. There's no password needed, but that's our dedicated network for our bandwidth. At this time, then, I'd like to call Justice Carla Wong McMillan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time I'd like to call forward Sutton Connolly to lead us in the invocation.
Good morning. For our ability as lawyers to help the poor, the powerless, and the oppressed, we are thankful. We ask for determination and diligence in that effort. For our judges and justices, their wisdom, their courage, and their sense of fair play, we are thankful. We ask that they be strong in their resolve and continue to do justice without regard to status or person. For our system of justice, the best hope for bending the arc of the moral universe towards the same, we are thankful. We ask that our nation respect and support all of those who toil in its mission. For those that came before us, that cleared and plowed the field of justice that we now reap and sow, and raised us up in the law, we are thankful. May we honor and cherish their memories through our works and our character. For all of this, we give thanks. May we be worthy of the task before us, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. And may we leave the world a more fair and just place than we found it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now we'd like to recognize our past presidents, the judges, and other special guests that are in attendance. So from the Supreme Court of Georgia, we have Chief Justice Harold Melton, Presiding Justice David Namias, Justice Michael Boggs, Justice Nels Peterson, Justice Charlie Bethel is attending virtually, Justice John Ellington, Justice Carla Wong McMillan, and Justice Sean Ellen LaGrua. On behalf of the Court of Appeals, we have Chief Judge Chris McFadden, Presiding Judge Ann Barnes is attending virtually, Presiding Judge Sarah Doyle, Presiding Judge Stephen Dillard, Presiding Judge Clyde Reese, also attending virtually, Judge Trent Brown, Judge Elizabeth Gobeil, Judge John Trey Pipkin, and Judge Verda Colvin. For past presidents, some of the happiest people in the room, we've got Bill Barwick, Bobby Chasteen, Gerald Edenfield is participating virtually, Jim Elliott, Jimmy Franklin, Linda Klein also participating virtually, Pat O'Connor, Patrice Perkins Hooker, my law partner Buck Rogers, Ken Shigley, Daryl Sutton, Lester Tate, and one Dawn M. Jones, attorney at law. Also in attendance, we have Attorney General Chris Carr and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is also attending virtually. Now for some fun. We also get to recognize our new officers. Again, I'm Elizabeth Veit. For the new Board of Governors members, we had a breakfast this morning. It was mentioned, but not fully. People call me ELF around here. Those are my initials. It's okay if you call me that too. Someone referenced ELF and was concerned that someone was being inappropriate, but it's okay. But I go by Elizabeth, it's all fine. So Sally Akins, President-elect, Tony Del Campo, Treasurer, Ivy Cadle, Secretary, Dawn M. Jones, immediate past President, Alyssa B. Haynes, YLD President, Ron Daniels, welcome, YLD President-elect, and Bert Hummel, YLD past President. Now we'd like to introduce you to our new board members. We did this a couple years ago, and I like the idea. I just want to be able to put a face and a name with folks. We got a lot of people here, and I hope that you can go and meet these people and greet them and make them feel welcome and help them get involved in our bar. So first, we've got information about their practice areas and things like that. I really just wanted to do a face and a name. So we've got Daniel Cannell from the Alapaha Circuit. And again, because it was important for me for faces and names, in the event things change or you met him during the pandemic. Oh, it skipped. Hold, please. Oh. Lauren, where's the rest of it? Okay. We're going to keep going. And then we have Judge Amanda Nicole Heath from the Augusta Circuit. We've got Stephen Elliott Tillman from the Brunswick Circuit. Judge Amanda Flora from the Flint Circuit. Rebecca Grice from the Macon Circuit. Will Davis, he is our member at large for Post 1. You might remember him from the dais yesterday. We've got Chenny Law, member at large Post 2. Jerry Cadle, Middle Circuit. Suspiciously related to our new secretary. We've got Kimberly Higginbotham from the Northern Circuit. Scott McMillan, our out-of-state rep, he's from Florida. And we've got Judge Britt Hammond from the Toombs Circuit. Welcome to everyone. And now we'd like to invite Ivy Cadle to do the second hardest thing he's done today, which is going to be the roll call.
Good morning. I look forward to serving as your secretary this year, and as such, it is my honor to pass out the roll. You know the drill. We've got 5 of these going around. If you're in the room, sign your name. If you're in the other room, sign your name. If you're logged on virtually and it shows your name, you're okay. If you've called in, then you need to email somebody at the State Bar and let them know that you're here. My email can simply be found by Googling my name, and you can send me an email. So with that, I'll pass out the roll.
All right, now moving on to the future meeting schedule. You'll find that in pages 25 and 26 of the board book. Just to highlight for everyone, we will be in Savannah in the fall for our fall meeting. We will be in Atlanta for our mid-year meeting, Athens for our spring, and back to Amelia Island for next year's annual meeting. And it was important to me when I was planning these meetings. I was actually planning them during the height of the pandemic. So I just wanted to make sure that we could pick spaces that could accommodate us no matter what the circumstances might be. So we are going to see a tour of every convention center that we can find in Atlanta or find in Georgia, and one that we've got down in Florida. So I look forward to seeing you all there, and please go ahead and make those arrangements. Also, for those of you who are running for the EC today and whom will hopefully get selected, the EC schedule's there. This year, I thought that our virtual meetings, I know we're all tired of virtual meetings, but they can be wildly practical too. So I tried to have kind of half and half on solely virtual Zoom meetings for the EC, because the EC typically meets once a month, and then meetings in person with hybrid components. But that schedule's already there. We have one item that doesn't appear on the agenda that we wanted to take care of today. There is an award that needs to be presented, and our immediate past president, Don M. Jones, attorney at law, will be presenting it.
Good morning. Isn't it a wonderful morning? We have one bit of awards business that we did not complete yesterday, and we wanted to make sure that these folks were honored. Section awards are presented to outstanding sections for their dedication and service to their areas of practice and for devoting endless hours of volunteer effort to the profession. This year's Section of the Year recipient is the Equine Law section. Section awards of achievement go to the following sections: the Construction Law section, the Fiduciary Law section, and the Nonprofit Law section. I'd like to ask Peter Crofton, Chair of the Construction Law section, to come up to receive the award on behalf of this section. The remainder of the sections will receive their awards following the meeting. And I know we're going to have a photo op real quick. I just don't know. Oh, there you go. So come on. We are. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations on that. All right, moving on to the President's report items in the agenda. This is where we start our voting exercise. So this will be a fun experience for us. One thing that we needed to get out of the way first is we have a couple items that are presented as a slate. So it's a slate of candidates. Those agenda items are specifically 2A, 2B, 2C, and then 3D and 3I, related to like financial resolutions. What I need to do from us now that's a little kind of different is we need to get approval to vote as a slate. So we actually need to get approval to have a particular voting mechanism. We aren't approving those agenda items now. It just will make it wildly more convenient for us and more efficient if we approve our ability to vote on items as a slate as presented in the board book. At any point, if a member of the Board of Governors would like to take an item out, make it considered individually, they're more than happy you can make that vote. But this is something that our Deputy General Counsel and parliamentarian told me I had to do, so we're doing it. So I'd like to make a motion that we be able to, I'd like to make a motion that we have slate voting on all action items presented as a slate. Second? Perfect. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will have all in-person members of the Board of Governors vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. John?
The ayes have the majority.
Thank you. See, more convenient. And now, we don't have a poll for this one for the virtual attendees because we just had to do this, but having that, the ayes have it and the motion passes. Thank you kindly. Today, you should have received an email of, or a hard copy of the committee assignments that we've been working on the past month or so. Again, there should have been an email that went out to everybody so you can access that. This represents the current state of affairs as it relates to all committees and boards and appointments that I've been working on over the past little bit. And we're going to go through some of these and make these approvals. For those of you who are new, this is where you can start to see the committee list. We will be making executive committee liaison assignments. obviously after today's meeting. So first, let's see. So our first action item, do we have a motion to approve the members of the state disciplinary board's informal advisory opinion board as presented in the packet on pages 31 and 32? Looking for a motion. Second? All right, any discussion? All in favor, in person, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Don?
The ayes have the majority.
Then virtual? It was approved. Perfect. That's how we're going to work through this. All right, do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve the ICLE board as presented on pages 30 of the packet? I need a motion in a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor in person, please signify by saying aye.
The ayes have the majority.
Thank you. Was that the Zoom? Passes. The motion passes. Oh, thank you. Goodness, I didn't ask for no votes. I think it felt so good. Why not, y'all? You want me to go back? There weren't any. True story. True story. Do you want me to go back? Okay. All right, we're going to keep it moving then. All right, do you approve of the 2021-2022 State Bar committees as presented for standing, special, and program committees and boards as presented in the packet? Do I get a motion for that? Second? All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
The ayes have the majority.
All right, passes on Zoom too. That passes. Thank you. Oh, it's my turn now. Thank you. That moved just surprisingly fast for us. First, I just want to say that I'm really thankful and grateful to be here today, and I am most assuredly ready to stand before you today, so long as we only get aye votes and no nay votes. But before I start to talk about what I've got going on for the upcoming year, it's important for me to acknowledge what's come before me. So I'd like to take a moment to thank those who had the very unenviable task of leading this organization during an unprecedented time. So first, I'd like to start with Chief Justice Melton and thank him for his leadership for our judiciary during this time. It's just been such a pleasure. I'm not taking it personally that you are retiring exactly when my bar year starts, but I just have appreciated this and I've appreciated your leadership. You've made us a better bar because of it. I'd like to take a moment to thank Daryl Sutton and Will Davis for their leadership. As Dawn said yesterday, they had to pivot fast. No one knew what we were doing, and every day it was, well, maybe tomorrow it'll be different, maybe tomorrow it'll be different. And so their years, the end of their years were upended by it, and so for that, I appreciate their service and what they've done. And then most certainly for Dawn Jones and Bert Hummel, the past president, immediate past president of the bar and of the YLD respectively. You didn't get the year you wanted, you didn't get the year you planned for, but we appreciate so much all the work you did to keep it going. We had to learn to speak in a language called Zoom. We had to do those things every day, and you had to persevere, and you had to endure a lot of things that you just didn't want to. And so for that, I am forever thankful and grateful, and I appreciate the work that both of y'all have done. And I think you've left it better than you found it. So thank you. Could everyone please join me in thanking them? Thank you. Well, obviously, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in March of 2020 was the beginning of an era unlike any other we've experienced in our world, in our nation, and our state, but certainly our profession. And so no one could have predicted in March of 2020 that it would be June of 2021 before we were able to gather together again in person. And so it makes me think about the last time we were able to meet in person at the mid-year meeting in January of 2020 in Atlanta, and that knowing what we know now, would we have all stopped to say hello to or just spent extra time catching up with each other? Would we have paid more attention in the meeting? Would we have reached out to someone and just said hello and chatted and caught up with folks? And would any of the annoyances or grievances with venue or menu or whatever you wanted to complain about would have seemed less important given what we have now? And so I think the answer to that would be yeah. And I think it's with that in mind that I look forward to the upcoming year, because we're going to face additional challenges, but we're going to be able to do it together. And I think if the past year has taught us anything, it's that we're better when we're together. And so as excited as we are to be here at this meeting, I'd say the atmosphere has truly been electric. I suffered from laryngitis the first 2 nights, I think, because I was just so excited to see y'all. So it's been such a great meeting. But we still know that Georgia is still reeling from the devastating effects of the pandemic that have robbed us of our loved ones and members of our community. And so for that, for you and your community and the losses that you've experienced, I just want to offer my condolences on behalf of the State Bar. Yesterday we did a memorial for our lawyers that we've lost, but I know that we've all been impacted in some way. And so as difficult as it is to quantify the number of challenges that we as a profession have faced over this last year, some of those challenges are going to stay with us. And yet, for all of the bad, I believe the pandemic has provided us with some opportunities for introspection and change that, if we were being honest with ourselves, were needed anyway. At my gym, we say it's the challenge that creates the change. And that's certainly true with the State Bar of Georgia. I know we will still be in an early stage of a transition, and some would say transition back to normal. I'm fine right now saying I don't want to go back to normal. I want to make something better. I want to create something exceptional, and this is the time to do it. And so let's take this opportunity to create something exceptional. And as you can imagine, though, that's not going to be a small feat for an organization of over 50,000 members. So I can tell you, the punchline is I have no grand initiatives for this year. This is just not the time for that. Going forward, we will remain focused on figuring out ways for the bar to adapt and grow during a time of transition, and we will promote our strengths, and we will address our perceived weaknesses during this time. And so to work towards a stronger, better, more unified bar, I will utilize the tools of collaboration and consensus building. For all the pomp and circumstance that's going to occur tonight, this year isn't about me at all. It's about all of us, all 52,000 of us. This is 5 times the size of the town that I grew up in. We have an amazing organization. And so this is also very full circle, because as some of you might recall, Mr. Elmore over here was one of my nominators when I first ran for the executive committee. And when he nominated me, he said that I didn't have a personal agenda, that I was really here to lead and serve the best interests of the bar. And I stand here today before you, prepared to deliver on that promise. And so by way of example, I've already started regularly communicating with the officer slate following behind me to ensure that we at least can operate as one cohesive unit where possible. We are all different people and we all have different perspectives, but it's important for me that we have some continuity in that way, that we are able to forward think about what's in the best interest of the bar. And so I respect the diversity of experiences and background of all of those who've been elected to lead and serve here, not just on the dais, but everyone who was elected to serve here. And I firmly believe that our collective efforts will ensure that this bar continues to operate successfully. And so also, whenever possible and where feasible, and especially when it relates to difficult decisions that you, the Board of Governors, have to make, I want to timely provide information to allow for real substantive deliberation. For example, today, you're going to hear a presentation on the recommendations of the Client Security Fund. That will be set for action, though, in the fall Board of Governors meeting. So I want you today to get the information you need so that you have time to go to your constituency and figure out what you need to do to make the best vote for your lawyers in your jurisdiction. Likewise, many of you have been asking about our PLI committee and when they're going to present their final recommendations. They are going to be presenting their final recommendations for a vote in the fall at the fall meeting as well. And I want you to know that now because I know this issue is important to a lot of our members. And so I want to give you the time and ability to make sure that you are present for that meeting and that you can cast the vote that you need to. And I also commit to continuing to prioritize transparency in our budget process so that bar members can have a full understanding of our budget. We know our programs have costs associated with them, and we, like many institutions, are facing budget challenges. And as a longstanding member of the Finance Committee and someone who actually enjoyed the minutia of being treasurer, I take very seriously our responsibility to be good stewards of our bar dues. And while this has certainly been a focus of mine for years, it is particularly important because during the past legislative session, as Chairman Estration mentioned yesterday, the State Bar as an organization also faced a unique challenge when a House member filed a bill that would require the bar to remit member fees to the state treasury and would allow the General Assembly to appropriate the bar's budget. Ultimately, the bill didn't get out of committee in the House, but the legislation gave the bar's leadership another opportunity to evaluate and reflect on why we, unlike other regulated professions in the state, are able to collect our own fees and set our own budget. So this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have this year, and I wanted you to be aware of that now. I didn't want to wait until 2 days before the legislative session because this is something we all need to think about and talk about now. So while serving on the Board of Governors, the Executive Committee, and as an officer over the past years, and hearing from other bar members, I have learned that a lot of lawyers in this state don't know what the bar does. And it makes it difficult for them to answer the question, what has the bar done for you? So I'm not going to ask you that today. With our very well done and successful PSA campaigns and other educational campaigns we've done over the past few years, we've been focusing on more what the public thinks of the legal profession and what they think about lawyers in the judiciary. And I think now it's probably time for us to pay attention to what our members think of the state bar and to raise their awareness of the importance of a unified bar. So I could do a day's program. I'm an admitted bar junkie. I could do a day's program extolling the virtues of the bar and the bar's benefits. But I want to give you a sampling of member benefits because I think it's important that you, the members of the Board of Governors, are able to have this information to go back to your constituents. So some member benefits we have include FastCase, which you know is a legal research tool, the insurance exchange, and then we have free confidential counseling services, which saw a significant increase this past year. So over the course of the next year, I intend to highlight in each of my president's remarks one program or offering of the bar because I need your help in letting our members know that what they get for their bar dues. So with this platform, I can reach many people, but with your help, we can reach everybody in the state bar. And you never know what lawyer in your community may need the exact service that the bar provides, and they can't know that until you go tell them to. So in this first installation of #KnowYourBar, because if you don't have a hashtag, you're not living, I want to highlight our amazing law practice management program, which can provide your firm advice on technology, firm finances, organization of their library materials, and among other things. And so first, maybe you're saying to yourself, I'm a judge, I work in the public sector, I work at a really established firm with processes, that I don't have any control over. Well, this could still be helpful to you. One, you might know someone in your community, like I said, that needs this information. You might know a young lawyer who's starting out, or a lawyer who used to be at a large firm who's decided he or she wants to hang their own shingle. And so this program can help them do that. We're all figuring out the technology. And then similarly, I worked at DeKalb County Law Department. You might have a need in your office to change or find some new platform or technology or something that you might need that the pandemic has suggested because now you've got the hybrid work schedule. The law practice management program could be a resource to find out that information. And the information there is tailored to the legal profession. So I think no matter what your walk of life is, no matter what your practice area is, that this program can be a benefit to you. Here's just a list of some of the sampling of the offerings of the law practice management program. I'm not going to read you the slide, but I just want you to know information about this is also available on the web. And so I want to highlight that we have dedicated staff contacts for the program. So this isn't a situation where you just have to go and cull through all the information yourself. You can reach out to these individuals and they will help you find the information that you need. And then finally, that's where you can find the information. So I look forward over the next year of highlighting more of our offerings so that you all can better know your bar. There are other areas of focus that I do have this year, but I always want to be respectful of your time. And I also know that I have lots of opportunities to talk to you all, so I can fill those in later. And so in conclusion, I hope to be a steady hand at the helm as the State Bar plans and implements our post-pandemic future, continues to adapt as needed, and moves forward. After all, it's not about me. It's always been about our bar and our more than 50,000 members. Thank you for your service and your dedication to our profession. All right, now moving on to 3A in the agenda, nominations to the Judicial Council Qualifications Committee. For some of you who may not know, pursuant to OCGA 15-121, the State Bar selects a slate of candidates that is submitted to the Lieutenant Governor for determination to be selected to be placed on the Judicial Qualifications Committee. And so behind, on page 49 of your board book, you will see the slate as recommended from the JQC committee. Do I have a motion to approve the nominations of the JQC committee as presented in the board book? Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion in the other room?
None.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
The ayes have it.
Okay, in our polling question. There we go. The motion approves. Thank you. Now we are turning to the treasurer's report with our new treasurer, Tony Del Campo. For those of you who may not recall, this is the meeting where we set the actual budget for next year. So this is a very important part of the meeting for us.
All right, good morning, folks. As has been said many times, it's great to be with all of you. And it was a very tough year in many ways, but I'm happy to report that the financial strength of the bar is good. You can look at pages 50 through 56 to 66 of your board book for the results through March 31, 2021 for the financial statements. And that reflects information for the 9 months that ended March 31, 2021. And on pages 50 through 54, any individual line item that exceeds $100, any variance is noted there as well. On page 54, you will find the summary with the highlights, and I want to go over those a little bit. For the bar, we budgeted a net loss of approximately $336,000. For the bar center, we budgeted a net gain of approximately $550,600. As many of you know, the Georgia Public Defenders Council moved out of the bar building, and that will reduce the amount of the anticipated income. Also, with the pandemic, there are no Atlanta United games and those kind of things, so the parking revenue was also reduced. But based on the actual results through March, I'm happy to report there are no negative surprises, and we continue to attempt to mitigate the loss of tenant and parking revenue as much as possible. So that is the treasurer's report. We are in good shape, and Ron's here if you have any questions, and I'm sure Elizabeth would love to talk to you about any of that as well.
You got it.
We're good. All right. Anybody have any questions? The other room? No, we're good. Okay, so moving on to the budget, this is an action piece, and the budget can be found on pages 67 through 113 of the board book. And the budget includes all departments, including ICLE, because we've now, as all of you know, have taken over ICLE. The overall budget has a net income of approximately $33,000, composed of a loss from bar operations of $187,000 that's offset by a profit of $220,000 for the bar center. This will be good news to all of you. Active dues will remain the same. There's no increase in In dues, they'll remain at $254, and inactive dues will remain at $127. And that is, again, no change from the 2021 bar year. Due to the pandemic, we decided not to do an increase on salaries, so they're set at 0%. And all budget assumptions can be found on page 68 of your board book. That includes the effects of the items approved by the Programs Committee, Personnel Committee, and the Executive Committee. I want to commend the staff. They've done a phenomenal job through very difficult circumstances, and they've tried to decrease budgeted expenses as much as possible, and they've considered potential additional costs and potential additional savings due to the pandemic. That is important, so I want to thank Ron and all the staff for all they do. Now, the above profit for Bar Center includes a loss of revenue due to the Georgia Public Standards Council moving out of the building. So that is the budget, and Madam President.
With that, do we have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 State Bar budget, including the operating budget, Bar Center budget, and ICLE budget as presented? Second. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion in the other room?
No.
Okay, Johnny. Question. All right. With that, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? John?
The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
I'm waiting on them. All right. Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you, folks. Lastly, there are some financial resolutions, and these are the resolutions that we pass every year. They're the same thing, and it just allows us to continue with the work of the bar from a financial standpoint, and they are as follows. And again, we will take this as a slate. The first is the authorization of the president to secure blanket position bonds for officers and other staff. The second was a designation of depositories for general operations of State Bar of Georgia. And lastly is employment of an independent auditing firm, which is Malden and Jenkins, to audit the financial records of the State Bar for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Do I have a second for his motion to approve all financial resolutions? Perfect. Any discussion? Any discussion in the other room?
None.
Any discussion online? This is the one I wanted discussion on. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
The ayes have it.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Congrats, Tony. I know, right? Keep forgetting the nays. I'm going to really listen to the nays for this next agenda item. Next up, we have the executive director election. Dawn reminded me about the nays. So we have a new executive director in Damon Elmore, who's a familiar face to many, but pursuant to our bylaws, Article 6, Section 1 requires that the executive director be nominated and elected by the Board of Governors of the State Bar at its first meeting each year, and that is this meeting. So I'm just going to say that if this doesn't go the way he hopes, it's going to be really awkward later during his remarks. And the tone could change dramatically. So let's keep it professional, guys. So with that, I will move to nominate Damon Elmore, the Executive Director of the State Bar of Georgia.
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
I'm not going to deep dive on how it might sway them, so thank you. Well, the Lord provides. Yes.
Tell them we can't hear them and they're using microphones.
Well, and I've got the absentee ballots back here too. So there's like a whole thing. The poll worker program, this was the perfect time. All right, with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
The vote is unanimous here.
Okay. And then, hold on, he's monitoring. Sure is taking a long time. Oh, he says it's, hold on, let me read this real quick, hold on. He got his friends and family to log on. Motion passes, congratulations. Moving on to item F. Whew, it's going to be so much more professional. Item F, the election schedule. We publish that every year so that you all can know how that works for the upcoming year. That's on page 114 of the bar book. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021-2022 election schedule as presented? Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay.
The vote is unanimous.
The ayes have it virtually. Motion passes. Thank you. Item G on our agenda, the Elections Committee recommendation found on page 115 of the board book. So if you'll recall, I think back in the spring, the Elections Committee presented a recommendation regarding how we conduct our elections here. And the summary on page 115 is very excellent and very succinct. So congrats to that committee for doing that. If you look at the third or the last paragraph, the committee recommends that the bar change the election format to opt in for paper ballots. Right now, it's an opt out. And we've just seen with our voting numbers, it's a great expense to prepare these paper ballots and send it out. So the goal would be to change the program to an opt-in for paper ballots. An email discussing that change would go out in the fall. There would be a public strategy campaign to highlight that for members. We do have members that still very much so want their paper, but we want to make sure that we do what we can to get more people to vote and get them that access and be fiscally responsible. So the committee recommends that all eligible voters have their ballot preference changed to reflect that they will receive an electronic ballot. So do we have a motion to approve the election committee recommendation as presented on page 115 of the board book? I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? This room or the other room or online?
None.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nay.
The ayes unanimous.
Motion passes. Thank you. Ooh, now for the talent show portion. We have the executive committee election. So for the new people, this is an opportunity where your fellow lawyers showcase their witty, pithy comments. Sometimes we get people singing songs. They've done raps. Just get ready. Who even knows? People have had a year to sit on this. So the way we do this is, first and foremost, please, you see I'm moving this meeting along. Please keep the nomination speeches to the appropriate amount of time. 5 minutes for the first, it's supposed to be 2 for the second. Also, let me explain how this works a little bit because we've got some minutia. So the first election that we will have is for the 1-year unexpired term of Ivy Cadle, as Ivy has now become the secretary. His seat is vacant on the EC, and so we will conduct that election first. We will call for nominations, and then we will close that and have a vote on that one-term seat. Anyone who runs and is unsuccessful in the first race can certainly drop into the second slate. So the second slate we have are 2-year terms for 2021, the expired term of Javon Hicks. We've got the expired term of Amy Howell and the expired term of David Lipscomb. Amy Howell is remaining on the Board of Governors, but she is stepping down from the EC. Again, you and Milton. That's just, it's not nice. So we will have that. And so in that election, no one is running for a particular seat. It will be the top 3 vote getters in that race that will be on the executive committee. We are going to handle this via paper ballot. We think we have a good handle on who all is running and not, but in case, so we're going to be doing that via paper ballot, and we will count those and come back to them. Please know that for that second race, and I'll remind you when we cast these votes, you have to vote for 3. If you got less than 3, your ballot's not getting counted. A lot of election talk today. So with that, calling for any nominations for the 1-year unexpired term of Ivy Cadle. I see Mr. Daryl Sutton has just gone on and made his way up.
So I have received some commentary this morning that the jacket I'm wearing is much more muted than those of you who know me are used to. And that's because I want you, in all seriousness, to hear my words and not see my jacket. This nomination stands in contrast to its subject. After all, it is the very public acknowledgement of a career characterized by responsible, practical, compassionate, and effective leadership. Yet it's the story of quiet leadership, the story of a man who has led not for public praise or fanfare, but for the good of the organizations for which he has been responsible and the constituencies of whom he has taken charge. This is the nomination of Bill Gentry to fill Ivy Cadle's unexpired term on the State Bar of Georgia Executive Committee. Bill, please stand. Bill is an experienced bar leader. Like so many of us, Bill cut his teeth in bar leadership at the local level, serving as president of the Cobb County Bar Association from 2001 to 2002. For those who don't know, the Cobb Bar is the second largest voluntary bar association in our state, comprised of more than 1,000 members, and Bill led it with aplomb. So much so that in 2012, that same constituency elected him to represent it as a member of this body, the State Bar's Board of Governors. Since then, Bill has time and again been dedicated to accomplishing initiatives that are both good for our profession and good for the more than 50,000 lawyers who comprise it. Take, for example, 3 initiatives that Bill has overseen since 2016 when he became chair of the bar's Aging Lawyers Task Force, and since 2018 when he became chair of the bar's Senior Lawyers Committee. Bill has taken on the difficult and often perilous task of identifying the various issues accompanying the growing population of lawyers reaching and exceeding the age of 65 and creating a comprehensive infrastructure that permits every Georgia lawyer gives them complete control of their legacy. This is where we've seen what I call quintessential Bill: responsibility, compassion, and practicality. First, the responsible. To help reduce the number of Georgia lawyers unexpectedly leaving the practice without a plan for returning client property, Bill helped devise and shepherd the Successor Election Initiative. You're all now familiar with this. In its 3rd year, each lawyer in Georgia on their due statement has the opportunity to identify a lawyer or 2 who will be responsible for returning client property in the event that that lawyer unexpectedly leaves the practice. Before this, the burden fell almost exclusively upon the bar and the Office of General Counsel to wrap up these practices. Now that it's done, consistent with the wishes of the lawyer whose practice is being closed, by a lawyer or lawyers that that lawyer chooses, and to the benefit of the clients that lawyer can no longer serve. Second, the compassionate, the retired membership category. Members with cognitive impairment can now exit the practice with dignity and their reputations preserved because under Bill's leadership, the Senior Lawyers Committee vetted and approved and presented to this board for approval a membership category that allows lawyers with cognitive impairment who need to exit the practice for the protection of the public to do so with respect and the dignity that their careers deserve. Third, the practical. The Sudden Health Crisis Succession Planning Portal that under Bill's leadership, the Senior Lawyers Committee vetted and created. So now that lawyers facing a sudden health crisis, the most troubling time in their lives most likely, have the resources, the practical resources, the tools, the documents, the information that they need to either shut down their practices or pause their practices at the most trying time of their lives. These are just examples of what Bill has done to lead. Now let me tell you why he is uniquely qualified to help shepherd the bar into the future. Yesterday, retiring Chief Justice Melton mentioned to us that we are indeed a united profession. But as with many things, we don't understand the benefits of unification until it is gone. Well, Bill has the unified bar literally coursing through his veins. Bill is a second cousin of Harry Baxter. Harry Baxter was the first president of the Young Lawyers Section, or the Young Lawyers Division, in 1938. He was also one of a handful of people who was the driving force behind the creation of the Unified Bar in 1963. As we enter an era where the Unified Bar will be under attack and where the Executive Committee will be daily, weekly, monthly challenged with the opportunity to shepherd our bar through this time and to maintain the Unified Bar, you need somebody who has the Unified Bar in his DNA to help lead us through that. A person who has shown time and again that he's willing to do the hard work, to roll up his sleeves, and to serve the people, not for himself, but for the good of the organization. Please elect Bill Gentry to fill Ivy Cadle's unexpired term.
Tina Roddenberry.
I rise to second the nomination of my friend Bill Gentry to be on the executive committee. I met Bill when I was 23 years old at the University of Georgia Law School, where he was a leader even then as our president of the Student Bar Association. The Student Bar Association awarded a scholarship every year at UGA for someone to run the bookstore in the law school. And Bill and his friend Kyle Pruitt interviewed me and awarded me this scholarship. And it was then that I knew how wise and astute Bill was. But I do want to talk about, Daryl did a great job of talking about his leadership, but Bill is a leader in everything that he participates in every community that he gets involved in, he plays a role. He serves quietly, as Daryl mentioned. He is someone who, in his church, in his school, his children's schools, in the local bar association, and our state bar, he is there time and time again, giving of himself and making a positive contribution. But more importantly, he does it in a very inclusive and kind way. That's who Bill is. He does it with a big smile on his face and with kindness. So I appreciate the opportunity to nominate my friend, and I would urge you to please vote for him for executive committee. I know you'll be very proud to have him on the executive committee and see what a positive influence he can make. Thank you.
Are there any other, I see Will Davis approaching the podium.
I don't know what it says that less than 24 hours later, Daryl and I both figured out a way to get up here in front of you and speak to you this morning. I am proud to rise and nominate my friend Nicole Leet for the unexpired term of Ivy Cadle on the executive committee. Nicole, if you would please stand. I first met Nicole as a young lawyer in Chicago in 2013. Nicole was about to begin her race for YLD secretary, which she was successful with. And during my time in the YLD, which officially ended yesterday, Nicole has been a friend. She has been a leader. I've been able to serve with her as an officer of that organization. Nicole, in that role, was an amazing leader. Nicole has great ideas that she brings to the table. During her YLD presidential year, she had an incredible incredible focus on pro bono service to make sure that young lawyers across the state were united, but especially united to help those citizens of Georgia who otherwise may not have access to lawyers. Nicole has served on the executive committee before. I was able to serve with her on the executive committee for 1 year. Nicole is not a shrinking violet. Nicole will importantly let you know if there's an issue that she wants to discuss, that she feels something could be fixed, but she also is a quiet leader, and she's happy to sit back and also just be a part of various committees. She serves in the bar, then I can probably list. She's active with the Atlanta Bar Association, the Lawyers Club of Atlanta, the Georgia Association of Women Lawyers. Despite her affinity for Texas A&M, which I can ignore now. Nicole has served this bar. She wants to continue serving this bar. Following her leadership within the Young Lawyers Division, she immediately ran for a contested seat on the Board of Governors, was elected in 2019, and was recently elected to her second full term. She's gregarious, she's a go-getter, she presents new ideas. I think her perspective on the executive committee would be welcomed. And again, she asked me to do this quickly. So I just strongly encourage you to vote for Nicole. She'd be a great asset to the bar, a great asset to the executive committee, and I encourage you to support her. Thank you.
So my understanding is that Amy Walters will be doing the second and that she will be appearing virtually.
Am I there? I can't tell. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Walters. I'm an attorney here in Columbus, Georgia. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Columbus, one, not surprised. Two, if you ever come to visit Columbus, we are famous for three things. One, we have Fort Benning. Two, we have the Aflac Duck. And three, we claim to have the original formula for Coca-Cola. And let me tell you, people here will fight Atlanta about that. I'm here today to second the nomination of Nicole Leet to the executive committee. I cannot remember the first time I ever met Nicole, but I can tell you I can't remember not knowing her. I met Nicole through the Young Lawyers Division, and I've continued that friendship with her with my involvement in the Board of Governors. And as an attorney that works well outside of the perimeter, it can sometimes be difficult to be involved with state bar activities, be accepted and included in things. And Nicole was always very welcoming and supportive of lawyers all over the state, being active within the bar. She has demonstrated her dedication and her service to the state bar by her involvement in this organization, and she would be an asset to the executive committee. And so I'm proud to call her my friend and second her nomination this morning.
Do we have any other nominations for the unexpired term of Ivy Cadle at this point? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Find out what's going on in the second room. Any opposed, say nay. All right. John?
The ayes are unanimous.
Excellent. The ayes have it. Nominations are closed. At this point, we are going to be disseminating a paper ballot. There he goes. Ivy's killing it. He's full of so much enthusiasm, too. So we're going to be disseminating paper ballots in this room and in the other room. Please select one person, and what we are going to do while y'all are working through that, because then they're going to actually count the votes, and then the person that doesn't prevail in this race can certainly drop into the next one. So we're going to hold our powder on more nominations while we get the results of this particular vote, and we'll move on in the agenda. That's what, yes. We have that. They just want it for them. All right, we're gonna actually. Oh, Ivy, we need ballots up here too.
need to, I can take it.
We don't have any. Oops, sorry.
Oh, it's Chris, my first day on the job. You gotta be so critical.
I turn.
All right, we're about to take the ballots back and count them. So if you did not get, if you haven't voted, this is your moment. Last chance. Last call. Okay, seeing none, we're going to count them.
Excellent. We're gonna, while they're counting those, we're gonna move on in the agenda. Oh, you're fine. We're gonna move on in the agenda. I believe we are at item I, the Georgia Legal Services Program appointments. That's again another slate. Do we have a motion to approve the Georgia Legal Services Program appointments as presented? I got a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Any discussion in the other room? Empty. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Hey, Kellen.
Hi, there's no discussion.
Okay, all right, all those in favor, let's just do this again, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay?
The ayes have it here.
Excellent, and then virtual. All right, the ayes have it, motion passes, thank you. Moving on to item J in the agenda, we've got the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism appointment, Christopher J. Chan for a 3-year term to CJCP. Do we have a motion to approve the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism appointment as presented? Perfect, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion in this room or the other?
None here.
Immediate past President Don M. Jones would like everyone to know that Christopher J. Chan is also a graduate of Georgia State University, College of Law. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Kellen?
No opposition here. They have it. The ayes have it.
All right, motion passes, thank you. We're just gonna keep cruising right on along, y'all. I'm trying to get y'all to whatever sunshine's left of the day. Now we are going to have our informational reports, and so I'd like to call Alyssa B. Haynes, Esquire, the YLD president.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I first just want to say how grateful I am to be standing here as the 75th president of the Young Lawyers Division of the State Bar of Georgia. I thanked him last night, and I'll thank him again, even though he has left conveniently for my remarks. But I thank Bert for his service to the YLD, even though most of it had to be through Zoom. He did look dashing in all of the Zoom screenshots during last night's slideshow. For those that did not have the good fortune of being at the YLD dinner last night to see my slideshow of Bert's year, as told by Zoom and his favorite band, Smash Mouth, I think you really missed out. I am also honored to be serving with Elizabeth Fight this year, the year of E squared, as I've been saying. We became quick text message friends over the past year, and I'm so glad to have finally met you in person, and I look forward to working with you. When I ran for YLD secretary, I had 4 main goals in mind that I wanted to accomplish during my presidency year. The first is encouraging and promoting inclusivity and involvement at any stage of a young lawyer's career. That was especially relevant for me as I began my YLD journey. The firms where I spent my first 4 year of practice were disapproving of extracurricular involvement, and it wasn't until my former colleague and dear friend Kevin Patrick encouraged me to apply for the YLD Leadership Academy that I got involved. So to all of our Board of Governors members, I encourage you to make it sincere efforts to get your associates or the young lawyers you mentor involved in the YLD. And with that, I hope you'll also consider financially supporting young lawyers to get involved with the YLD. When I started the Leadership Academy in 2015, I was lucky to be at a firm, Goodman McGuffey at the time, that did financially support that. And I'm sure my current firm, Drew, Echo & Farnham, is thrilled for them to have funded me through this point. My second goal is increased legislative involvement from our young lawyers. There's an astonishing low number of lawyers in our legislature, as you know. I think Jen Jordan said during yesterday's Board of Governors meeting, there are only 8 lawyers out of 56 members in our state Senate. And what that means is that we have several non-lawyers drafting bills that directly impact our practice of law. I'm fortunate to have had the opportunity during this past session to help draft the Phantom Damages Bill, which unfortunately did not pass, but it's an experience that I know a lot of our young lawyers would want to have. And as lawyers, our knowledge and skills are greatly appreciated and needed at the Capitol. I plan to work closely with our YLD Legislative Affairs Committee chairs, Christine Butcher-Hayes and Chairman Strachian, who I had the pleasure of speaking again last night, about finding more ways to help our young lawyers get involved with the legislative process. My third goal is greater interaction between the YLD and all of you, or what we refer to as the Big Bar. In the past, if you came to a YLD or a State Bar mid-year meeting, there was not really anything geared towards the YLD except the 1-hour meeting. So starting at next year's mid-year meeting, I plan to have a joint networking reception between both organizations to encourage more interaction amongst our groups. Unlike years past, the YLD is also combining our fall meeting with the Board of Governors meeting in Savannah in October, and we'll also be joining the Board of Governors again for our mid-year in January. My spring meeting would then be next March in Chattanooga, and I hope some of you guys can join. Instead of our summer meeting, we will also be making my 4th and final meeting at next year's annual meeting in Amelia Island. So now if you're a young lawyer and your boss was anything like mine at the time, you can now say without lying that you're no longer just going on a boondoggle for the annual meeting where there's actually no YLD meeting scheduled. I welcome all of our Board of Governors members to attend all of our events. We really love to see you guys. My final goal is technology related, something we're all intimately familiar with after a year of Zoom and Microsoft Teams. If you were at the YLD dinner, I commended those who were smart enough to invest in Zoom early on, while I instead dumped my money into Dogecoin, and look where that got me. While we all have Zoom fatigue, one thing that Zoom has helped us with is being able to be in 2 places at once. You can be in the office and then also hop on a committee call during lunch. I plan to keep a virtual option for all of my YLD meetings, CLEs, and small group meetings, so our members across the state and even outside of the state can participate. I also hope it will help ease the financial burden with nonstop traveling. I also want to create a YLD-wide listserv for those that may not have the benefit of a law firm or the listservs of GDLA or GTLA for people to ask questions, seek recommendations, or initiate case referrals. In addition to those 4 goals, I intend to continue the YLD's efforts on focusing on lawyer wellness, even though we may have to retire Bert's hashtag, which was YLD Panned Exercise, focus on mental health and racial injustice. I look forward to bringing some new and perhaps unconventional CLEs to our programming, such as speakers that I have lined up who will be talking about blockchain, cryptocurrency, and their interaction with the law. I'm also planning a Hamilton-themed CLE for Constitution Day. We have not decided if it will be Bert or Elizabeth who are going to dress up as George Washington, so I do hope that you can attend that as well. Lastly, I plan to continue the momentum of the legal food frenzy by beating both Bert and Will's years and raising over $1 million next year. But to wrap things up, if you know me, you know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was and will always be one of my greatest inspirations. While she had many noteworthy quotes, I think there's one that was particularly relevant for the work we do here with the YLD and the State Bar. When asked how she would want to be remembered, she said that I've gotten much more satisfaction for the things that I've done for which I was not paid. The same applies for me as well, and I thank you all and look forward to working with each of you.
Welcome back, Bert.
I was a water boy. I was getting salad.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to call forward our Executive Director, Damon Elmore, to have a more professional tone than what could have been expected.
Yeah, I was the 59th president of the Young Lawyers Division, so that's a reality check right there. Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Supreme Court, members of the Board of Governors, and friends. I appreciate this opportunity to come before you with remarks and an update on our bar operations. Before I begin, I do want to thank you for your vote of confidence and extension of my term as Executive Director. I appreciate the opportunity to continue to work with an amazing team as we support the mission of the bar and provide value for our members. I am grateful. As we end a bar year, we are confident and optimistic in our position and the way we will support our members in the new bar year and beyond. I am reminded of the words of St. Benedict when he tells us, "Always we begin again." I searched for a better, less cliche word than excited, but that describes how we feel seeing faces in our buildings in Savannah, Tifton, and at 104 Marietta Street. For some time now, the Coastal and South Georgia offices have shown us the way in which to host members and support their needs for depositions or general meeting space. Our conference center is seeing activity again, including hosting a recent Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism meeting last week. The Office of the General Counsel and the administrative offices have been focused on their work, but the workspaces and views are changing, and that is bringing a renewed energy. If you've talked with me for more than 5 minutes over the past few days, or if you see me tonight, you know I will brag on the work of all of our departments, about fee arbitration and how they continue to moderate long and complicated hearings, about our office manager who is collaborating and coordinating with our conference center, building security, sections, departments, and other groups, keeping our reopening top of mind, about Michael and our House School Mock Trial program and how they supported the national program tournament and even one that saw a Georgia team bring home a top 5 finish. About Lauren and the team in communications and how they've steadily kept our members updated over the last year plus and the creative ideas they are hatching as we move into the new year. About the membership department and how it has literally worked day and night, helping with password changes and server updates while navigating past license renewals and close elections. About the work I see and hear from our Office of the General Counsel, especially the support provided on personnel matters, policies, contracts, and the work they do to ensure our lawyers are honest, zealous advocates as the public calls upon us to be. About our meetings department and the nearly 200 staff members that have supported getting this meeting together. It was truly a remarkable feat. About the team in our law practice management department, keeping that top member value benefit clicking on all cylinders, even while we search for a new lead. About all of the other departments, not specifically mentioned, but doing the work that they need to do. We've said hello to some new faces since our last meeting, and we will say goodbye to a couple others before the next. We are grateful to them, all in different ways, for all of the contributions they have made for years and all of the good work we are confident that they will do next year and beyond. When you see them, Lauren, Amber, and Pauline, tell them thank you. So these are the 3 things that have my attention when I get back to the office on Wednesday. First, we recently had a good meeting with representatives from Cushman and Wakefield where we explored the current landscape of the commercial real estate market, particularly south of North Avenue in Atlanta. I am grateful to Ron and Steve Hallstrom for helping us in that process as we continue to work on plans to attract new tenants and optimize the use of 104 Marietta Street. That's a top priority. Another priority includes being intentional on connecting with members and key stakeholders to share the story of the work we're doing at the bar. What is equally important in those sessions is hearing your thoughts, feedback, and opinion and suggestions, as we are always open to improve and enhance our value. I'm grateful to those of you, I saw Frank around and others, that have allowed me a chance to connect and look forward to seeing more of you in the weeks to come, especially if lunch is involved.
The final focus is simple, and that is to get back into a groove of supporting our staff and carrying out the work of this board and board leadership. That's it. This office, too, has no agenda or program or plan. The aim is to simply make sure that our processes and people are best suited to do that work. Now that we are at a place that is directionally supportive of that focus, I will take full advantage of that space and we will deliver results. Quick point of clarification before I sit down. With all due respect to Justice Boggs and his Mercer Bears and the nice woman in the hall thinking Clemson, I'm actually paying homage to my Savannah State Tigers with this orange tie. And now a quick point of personal privilege. I started this position with Harold Melton as our Chief Justice and Don Jones as our President. It has been an honor to work with both of them during such a unique time. They are the definition of service to the public and the profession, and I am grateful to them for their friendship and support. So that's all. Stop me in the halls or call me if you have any questions. I appreciate the opportunity to have been a part of the bar in this fashion in these past 5 months, 1 legislative session, 3 Board of Governors meetings, 52 press requests for comments, 500 concerned email members, and 6 days later. We'll get back to work. Thank you.
All right, we have the results from the election for the 1-year unexpired term of Ivy Cadle, and that is Bill Gentry. Bill, congratulations. With that, then, we will now have nominations for the 2-year terms, the expired term of Javon Hicks, Amy Howell, and David Lipscomb. Do I have any nominations? What's happening? Oh, I'm sorry?
Gary Spencer has risen for nomination.
Oh, okay, sorry. This is the virtual component. I have, I'm not acknowledging Gary Spencer has risen to make a nomination. He'll be appearing virtually. You're on mute, Gary. You're muted.
I'll try this again. Good morning to the Chief Justice of our court, our Supreme Court, to the other justices and judges in the Courts of Appeals, to our new president, to our distinguished guests, and to my colleagues at the State Bar of Georgia. I rise, well, sort of, to nominate David Lipscomb to retain his seat on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. It is a seat he has held since 1999, literally since the last century. David grew up in Metro Atlanta and graduated from high school during the Kennedy administration, went to the service and came back to college and worked his way through college and law school, started a practice in North Atlanta, and has been a fixture in the Gwinnett Bar since 1980, eventually serving as the president of that bar. Now, all of us have been called bar junkies. We love the meetings, we love the community, we love being around other lawyers. David is the uber bar junkie. He's been on a list of committees, including the Fee Arbitration Committee, the Criminal Justice Reform Committee, Strategic Planning, Long-Range Planning, Judicial Procedures and Administration, Post-Capital Conviction Representation Committee, just to name a few. He presently serves on the Disciplinary Rules Committee, the Professional Liability Committee, and the Family Law section of the bar. I'm at a loss as to why he's no longer on the Senior Lawyers Committee. I guarantee that would be really funny if I was there in public, in person. David is a lawyer's lawyer. As a member of that bar, that other lawyers and judges call for advice and counsel. And in a cause close to my heart, he's been the chair of the Gwinnett Indigent Defense System since 1987, where he stands up for the lawyers who take appointed cases in Gwinnett County, fighting for their independence and their fees as there's no public defender system there. We should re-elect David for another term because of not just his commitment, but because of his institutional knowledge. We need his wisdom, we need his thoughts, we need his advocacy, and the familiarity with what we've done before, but also the flexibility to realize that the bar too needs new solutions as we go forward. Therefore, I'm asking you to join me in re-electing David Lipscomb to the Executive Committee. Thank you.
Looking for a second? I see John Hobbenrich.
Madam President, members of the board, and guests, I rise to second the nomination of David Lipscomb to re-election to the Executive Committee of this Board of Governors. There are two very fine lawyers in Georgia that come to mind who sport signature ponytails. One of them is Bruce Harvey, and the other's David, and folks rarely confuse the two. I first became acquainted with David when I was appointed to the Rules Committee by past President Linda Klein. That was in 1997. David and I have served together on that committee since that time, and for a number of years until this past year, we co-chaired that committee. Over that time, David's ponytail and my hair have grayed together. David has devoted many hours to service to the bar, serving on no less than 20 committees, including 22 years on the Executive Committee, as Gary pointed out. And he's chaired or co-chaired many of those committees. I'm going to have to disagree with Gary about one thing, and that is that I don't think David is a consummate bar junkie. I think he's rather a thoughtful and collaborative member of this board and the committees he's served on, and has contributed greatly to the betterment of our bar. In this climate that seems to favor change for the sake of change over stability, cooperation, and reasoned decision-making, I believe David's continued service on the Executive Committee is needed now more than ever. David has the breadth of experience and institutional knowledge that are needed on the Executive Committee. You might say, less flatteringly, that David knows where the bodies are buried and probably helped bury some of them. At any rate, I unqualifiedly support his re-election to the Executive Committee. Thank you.
All right, we're living in a virtual world. My understanding is that we have another virtual nomination, and that is Judge Shondina Morris.
Good morning. At this time, I rise to nominate Javon Hicks to serve as an executive member of the State Bar Board of Governors. And I have a video to present.
Good morning. My name is Shondina Morris, and I rise to nominate Javon Hicks to continue her service on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. Javon Hicks is the heart of our State Bar without question, and the value of the heart is immeasurable. The State Bar is like the human body. You have essentially a sum of parts, heart, brain, and organs, working together like our Executive Committee, Board of Governors, and members in unison and for the betterment of the body and profession. Javon, our heart, her service to the State Bar is immeasurable like the heart in a healthy, perfect body. Javon cares so much that the smallest details never go under the radar. She has a genuine concern for all members of the State Bar, and her attentiveness is unmatched. Now, I'm not minimizing the importance of all of the leaders and members of the bar, but if the heart stops, the body will shut down. The heart pumps blood throughout, and like Javon, is the center of everything related to the State Bar of Georgia. Javon is a leader. Great leadership starts with a willing heart, a positive attitude, and a desire to make a difference. Javon has been a member of the bar for 32 years and an active member of the Board of Governors for 15 years. She has served on the Executive Committee for 3 years. She serves as the chair of the Attorney Wellness Committee, chair of the Advisory Committee on Legislation, member of the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Committee, Commission on Continuing Lawyer Competency, former chair of the Committee to Promote Inclusion in the Profession, Programs Committee, Lawyers Assistance Program, Disciplinary Rules and Procedures Committee, and the Judicial Qualifications Commission or Nominating Committee. Javon is admitted to practice in Georgia and North Carolina. She is a past president of the DeKalb Bar Association, the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, Leadership Georgia, Leadership DeKalb, Leadership Atlanta, and National Association of Court Managers. Javon's legal career consists of the following. In 2018, she was appointed the Clerk of Court for DeKalb State and Magistrate Courts, serving over 700,000 citizens. DeKalb County Deputy Chief Assistant, DeKalb Solicitor General's Office. She served as Chief of Staff for the Environmental Protection Agency, Acting District Attorney, and Chief Assistant District Attorney for DeKalb District Attorney's Office. Now, the mission of the Chief Justice Commission on Professionalism is to support and encourage lawyers to exercise the highest levels of professionalism, integrity in their relationships with their clients, other lawyers, the courts, and the public to fulfill their obligations to improve the law and the legal system and to ensure access to that system. Javon has been doing that every day for the last 32 years. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. I truly can attest to this. I met Javon over a decade ago. She has had a positive impact, significant impact on my life and other members of the bar and judiciary. I recall Javon sharing her story about her late husband, Charles Hicks, and how he lost his life to suicide. Javon continues to tirelessly work on behalf of the bar to bring awareness and education so we will not lose another member to suicide. Her efforts for the last 10 years, she has participated in Out of Darkness, the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Walk. She has chaired the Wellness Committee, and she does a lot of work with lawyers living well. Her goal is to get rid of the stigma and normalize the conversation about suicide and prevention. Javon's efforts have been tremendous, and she has been a leader by motivating, inspiring, and truly causing us to serve. So she has led by example, and she is truly the heart of the state bar. I nominate Javon Hicks to serve on the Executive Committee of the State Bar of Georgia. Thank you.
I recognize Lester Johnson.
Javon, I think most people know you, but before we begin, please stand up so those who don't know you know who you are. Madam President, members of the dais, my fellow Board of Governor members, guests, and friends, I would have to follow that video. Those of you that know me, I couldn't put together one of those even with regular Polaroids. But I'm honored to be asked by Javon to second the nomination for her reelection to the Executive Committee. I met Javon in one of these meetings, at one of those Board of Governor meetings where you see a person who is just making friends with folks, but also seeing other people recognize her as the leader that she is. Shandina did an excellent job of telling you about Javon's character and her bar service, and I will only highlight a few other accolades that I have garnered through the years that I've known Javon. She has an exemplary professional and public service career, which began as an assistant attorney general and as an assistant district attorney in 3, not 1, but 3 judicial circuits. During her more than 17-year career as a prosecutor, she served as the acting district attorney and the chief assistant district attorney in DeKalb County. She then took somewhat of a sabbatical, if you want to call it that, and went to work for the Environmental Protection Agency. And I remember when she told us about that lofty appointment. She served there as Chief of Staff for the EPA, where she oversaw agency offices in 8 states and did a wonderful job during that period of time. She returned to her beloved DeKalb County and served as the Deputy Chief Assistant Solicitor General, where she concentrated her efforts, not surprisingly, on expanding the operations and several successful diversion programs. And you know how important those diversion programs are for this community in DeKalb and in Chatham and other communities. She is currently the clerk of the DeKalb County State and Magistrate Courts. And Javon, I don't know how you pull that off, but she is serving well in that position. Most of you know and have heard from the video of her service to our bar, so I'm not going to duplicate that. Javon has been a stalwart ambassador for members of this bar and for our profession. And I think you know what I'm referring to when I say that. I was proud of the fact that she took on the awesome responsibility and the task that at the time I did not even know existed, and stood up in front of a group of you all, her peers, her friends, and explained to you that she had a very loved one, her husband, who took his life. And that she realized that it was important for you all to know that so that you could buy into the fact that we need to do something about it. And she didn't ask us to do it, she took it on herself. That's the kind of person Javon is. Clearly, we need her to remain on the executive committee, and I humbly ask that you do that this morning. Thank you.
All right. Any other nominations? I see Amy Howell. Still.
Good morning. My name is Amy Howell. I've represented the Stone Mountain Judicial Circuit Post 5 for the last 10 years, and I stand before you in the very unique position, as you've heard, of having just concluded a 3-year term on the EC. I'd like to say that my leave of the EC is only a reflection of my great confidence in the leadership on the dais, nothing more. With this perspective, today I rise to nominate Shariki Cavett-Jones to the Executive Committee. Shariki, would you please stand and wave to everyone? Hopefully the folks at home will get to be able to see this as well. Many of you may know Shariki from having served alongside of her on the bar or a YLD committee, or serving in the community. If you don't know Shariki, I encourage you to get to know her. She's a genuinely good person, but I'll say more about that. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Shariki is an Atlanta native. She grew up in Tucker, Georgia. Her mom's here too, so hi, Mama Cavett. She went to Dartmouth College to get her BA in English. Another Dartmouth graduate, cum laude. And from there, she went on to Vanderbilt to get her law degree. Shariki has a breadth of legal experience. She's practiced both in the private and public sector and has had a legal career spanning from a large law firm to the judiciary, academia, and now in the business community. She currently serves as a commercial transactions attorney for Coyote Logistics, a UPS company, where she's responsible for handling commercial deals and agreements, working with the business stakeholders to identify and analyze risks and recommend risk mitigation strategies. She serves as an adjunct professor at Emory Law School, teaching a corporate externship class to over 200 and 300 2L and 3L law students. She's done this since 2013. She began her law career as an associate at Troutman in the complex litigation practice group, and then moved on to be into public service, clerking for Judge Linda Clark on the Federal Magistrate Court of the Northern District. And from there, she moved in-house, first at Oldcastle, then to Equifax, and now where she is at Coyote. Despite each of these demanding legal roles, since 2004, Shariki has always prioritized service to the bar and the community. She's served in many roles within the bar, and even over the past year, she served as chair of the COVID-19 Virtual Planning Special Committee. I'd like to also thank that committee for its important work. It was 2005 when I was first introduced to Shariki through her service to the Young Lawyers Division. I put this picture up and with one little footnote that as I went through the archives of pictures from the YLD, I was hard-pressed to find a picture of just Shariki. I'll make no reflections on our current ED or myself or other past presidents that are in the room where it was very easy to find just one lone picture of us because clearly we mugged for the camera quite a bit. But often when I found pictures of Shariki, it was like what's captured here, where we were in action, we were in service. That's how I came to meet her. She was serving on the YLD committee, the Community Service Committee, a committee that she would go on to chair a year later. For those who are new to the board or may not be familiar with the YLD, it is the service arm of the bar. The outstanding service to the bar and Georgia communities over the last year under Bert's leadership is truly emblematic of the YLD's work. And as such, there's no other committee in the YLD that's more pivotal and active. So during her tenure, some of the events that were organized were across the state, and activities that took place were back to school drives where we collected school supplies for kids in DFACs, partnering with the Chief Justice Commission on Service Juris Day, suit and cell phone drives, which I hope will come back for the YLD. We did those for many, many years. Activities across the board for local foster children like Zoo Day and otherwise. For all of those events and in Shariki's involvement in the YLD, what I witnessed was her commitment to the purpose, not a desire to ascend. Her involvement was demonstrated through all the action that she took place in, moving from Community Service Committee to really being involved in almost every major function of the YLD, from the YLD newsletter to chairing the signature fundraiser, and then in 2010, co-leading the Public Interest Internship Program, a novel project birthed in the midst of an economic downturn to help young lawyers and public interest organizations struggling to raise money and meet a growing community need. Shariki has also served the Big Bar over the many years in committees like Law-Related Education, iCivics, Access to Justice. What you need to know is that Shariki is the person who shows up and does the work. And throughout all this service, she's received numerous awards that you'll never hear her mention. And unless you're serving alongside her, whether in the bar or in her church where she teaches Sunday school to children and the mature alike, you might not even know just how much she does. She is truly a servant leader. While I believe Shariki's legal experience makes her well qualified to serve on the EC, I rise today because I know she has the integrity and the temperament to serve in this role. Shariki will bring that servant heart, even temperament, legal and experience, and as a member of the business community, a unique perspective to the EC. Her career experiences position her to better understand the perspectives of many of us on this board and across the state. But more importantly, she is the person who seeks input, stops to listen, and understand the issues, weigh the options, and make balanced decisions. I've served the bar and the Board of Governors long enough to see and directly experience what is needed in leadership of this bar. And as I roll off the EC and look toward the future of the bar and the leadership, the future is bright. But it is impossible to fully predict the array of issues and challenges that we will face in this year and in the future. I believe this past year is clear evidence of that. So what we need is to elect a servant leader who we are confident can be there to represent the Board of Governors, our members across the state, and has the temperament to make those balanced decisions in the toughest of decisions, the toughest of situations, never mind also doing all that hard work with integrity. Shariki is that person. Shariki is that lawyer. Shariki has the temperament, high moral character, and the dedication to the bar to make her an excellent addition to the EC. I ask that you vote to make her our newest member of the EC. I am confident she will serve us all very well. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Brandon Peak.
Madam President, distinguished members of the judiciary, fellow Board of Governors members, friends, and Shariki's mom. My name is Brandon Peak, and I come from across the street to rise and second the nomination of Shariki Cavett to the Board of Governors. It is my great honor and pleasure to do this. I first got to know Shariki almost 20 years ago when we served as summer associates and then associates together at Troutman Sanders. What struck me then and what has not changed in the ensuing 20 years is that Shariki is first and foremost a delightful person and a joy to be around. She has an infectious smile, genuinely cares about people, lawyers, and our profession. Now, Amy and I did not talk about our remarks before today, and as I sat back there, I thought how provident it was that we both came up with the same phrase to capture Shariki, and that was a servant leader. I can think of no higher compliment of Shariki than to say that she lives the example set by the late Chief Justice Harris Hines and lives the life of a servant leader. She does the right things for the right reasons without seeking recognition or fanfare. Now, some of you may not realize this, but we happen to be an opinionated bunch. Some of us even think that we are right and other folks are wrong when they disagree with us. The good news is that Shariki is a consensus builder. She listens carefully, finds common ground, and gets things done. I recently had the opportunity to chair another committee for another organization where we were seeking a leader. And when I was asking the committee for input on what characteristics we should seek, a very bright woman raised her hand and said, "We need a workhorse and not a show horse." Shariki is a workhorse. As Amy aptly described all her involvement in the bar, it would literally take me half a morning to describe that to you. But she rolls up her sleeves, she gets things done, and she serves our profession without seeking recognition or fanfare. Finally, Shariki knows what it is like to toil in the fields of our labor. It's not always easy. There are significant professional demands and a challenge to balance our work lives and our family lives. Shariki understands that tension. It will be an outstanding asset to the executive committee. I appreciate the time and opportunity that you have given me to tell you about my friend Shariki. I would be honored if you would join me in voting for her. I can tell you she is and will continue to be a credit to our profession. Thank you.
So also pursuant to our rules, the person that came in second in the first race, which would be Nicole Leet, automatically moves into this vote. So we don't have to go through the nomination process again, and I've confirmed that Ms. Leet would like to run. So we've now got 4 folks running for 3 spots. So we will be passing out paper ballots again. The top 3 vote getters will be selected for the EC. Reminder, you have to pick 3 people. If you do not, you're... Oh, okay, sure. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. There's another room somewhere, maybe. Any opposed say nay. It's fine. Yeah.
Elizabeth, what, in this room, we're wondering, what are we voting on?
We're closing nominations. Did you want to vote again? All in favor of closing nominations say aye. Any opposed say nay.
The ayes are unanimous here.
Nominations are closed. We have a monitor down here now. It's fun. So again, as I was saying, we're going to be passing out paper ballots. And as a reminder, for those of you who have white badges, if you're not going to get a ballot, it's only for green badges. That indicates a Board of Governors member who gets to vote. So we will disseminate those, take just a pause, and then we will jump back into the agenda as the ballots are disseminated and collected.
or you did not get a ballot, please make sure you make your way to the front of the room and hand them in. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good job, Ivy. Good job. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Has everyone turned in their ballots? Yeah, she introduced herself. Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You see your lady?
Ivy, you ready for me?
I didn't look. I was looking at her. I'm like, you kind of look familiar, but you don't. I swear to God, I'm staring and I'm like. She's like, comes up to me on first date. She's like, she looks so relaxed. Oh, I am. It's funny just standing there today. You can tell I was like, just talking. And it's okay. She came to make sure that we kept it.
I've never seen this group even want to take a break.
You had something to do. You had something to do.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I'm not even trying trying to be funny. It would be a problem if we went through all that and then people were like, no, I was like, that's not funny. That's not funny. But we had met. Say that again? What's the title?
All right, if I can get everyone to come back in, we're going to keep moving through the agenda.
So the Floyds?
We're feeling fancy.
No, they did a law student wellness program for about 2.5 hours a week. So
Yeah.
I am in love. I am in love.
Good morning, everybody.
Daisy and I think Tim, I am in love. Yeah. Crushing on both.
We're going to keep doing this. If I could have everyone take their seats, we're going to continue with the meeting. Sally. Yeah. Thank you. We are moving through the agenda. On the next item on the agenda was about Client Security Fund, but Ivy Cadle is doing his duty as the best secretary ever and counting votes. So at this point, we're going to have the report from CJCP from Judge Edline.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Edline, and I am, it's my honor to present a brief report to you on behalf of the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism. We have had a busy year this year, and Carlise Greer was sitting right here. There she is. I do want to say a special thank you to our Executive Director, Carlise Greer, because she has kept this train in motion in a difficult time for all of us. It was, I didn't plan this with Judge Cruz Morris, but she did point out the mission statement for the CJCP, and I think it bears repeating because it has a lot to do with some of the programs that we put on this year. The mission is to support and encourage lawyers to exercise the highest level of professional integrity in their relationships with their clients, other lawyers, the courts, and the public, and to fulfill their obligations to improve the law and the legal system and to ensure access to that system. And to that end, we hosted quite a few CLEs this year, and they were incredibly well attended. We're talking close to 2,000 people at many of the CLEs. And not only did the CLEs focus on things that you would typically expect, such as getting your professionalism credits and your ethics credits, and talking about what that means in the life of a pandemic, what that means in virtual proceedings. But in particular, I want to point out two other types of presentations that we did this year. In March, we put on the Unparalleled Unity CLE that was attended by more than 1,600 people. And it put the question to some of the leading professionals in our field, judges and lawyers, how do we as professionals lead the efforts to bridge the divisions that we as a community have faced both politically and in terms of social unrest? And that was an incredibly successful and thought-provoking presentation. Also in April, we hosted in conjunction with many of the state bar programs, a suicide awareness program. And I want to thank everyone who participated in that. There were people who spoke very honestly and bravely about their personal experiences or their loved ones and shared that with a group of strangers. And it's such an important topic, but I do want to thank not only our people who were on the panels, but also so many of the folks who went into planning with that. Again, Judge Cruz Morris, who chairs the Suicide Prevention and Awareness Program, Javon Hicks, who is the chair of Wellness, and also for the folks who went into the planning, not only Carlise Greer, but Judge Reese, Joe Chansey, Lane Bridges, and Bonnie Sella. And a couple of reminders about some things that are coming up that I encourage you to sign up for. One of them is the work that we do as lawyers to work with the newest or soon-to-be members of our profession, law students. And they have orientations for law students for professionalism and ethics issues. We need volunteers to help lead group conversations on that. If you are interested, I want to direct you to our website. Group leader applications are open until June 18th. And also, I serve as the chair of the grants committee for the CJCP. We do have grants available. There's a grant application open until July 15th. So if you're a member of another bar association, law schools, nonprofit charitable organizations, I encourage you to please apply for a grant. And the grant criteria is on there. The form is on the web. But the focus is on programs or projects that promote, develop, or enhance professionalism or access to justice or the administration of justice. So please, I encourage you to submit an application. Again, the deadline for that is July 15th. And also, I just want to know we are here to serve as a resource for you. If you are working on a CALE and you want to get professionalism credit or ethics credit, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I want to direct you to the website. There are a lot of resources there that are available for folks to use. And also, I wanted to point out that we are in the bar book there's more information in our Board of Governors handout, the bar book for pages 123 through 129. That completes my presentation. Thank you on behalf of CJCP, except I do want to acknowledge our Chief Justice upon his soon-to-be retirement and for his leadership to all of us, not only bar members, but also to this commission throughout. So thank you, Chief Justice Melton. Thank you, everyone.
Next item on the agenda was a report on the Georgia Bar Foundation, but Lynn Horton has had an unavoidable conflict that has arisen today, and he will not be presenting. So next, we will move on to our legislative report. I'd like to call down Christine Butcher Hayes and Kyle Williams, who will be our new ACL chair.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Hayes, and I am the Director of Governmental Affairs for the Bar. Welcome to all of the new Board of Governors members who I have not met. I did want to introduce Kyle Williams this morning, who is the upcoming chair of the Advisory Committee on Legislation, and that is the Bar Committee that looks at all of the legislative proposals sent by our sections that the Bar may or may not end up taking a position on during the legislative session. And Kyle, I'll let you introduce yourself and say a little bit about you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Chief Justice, justices, judges, board members, y'all that know me, y'all that don't know me. Y'all know I'm a little old dirt lawyer from Decatur. And several dirt lawyers in this room. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. I look forward to being involved. Look forward to hearing from y'all. Y'all know us. We're the eyes and the ears, whether the bar gets involved with the legislation or not. We need to know what's going on, and that starts with y'all. And that starts with y'all's involvement with the sections and y'all letting us know, letting Christine know, letting me know, let Rusty, our lobbyist in the back, know what we need to know in the fast-paced world of the legislation here in Georgia. So I'll turn it back to Christine, give us the report.
Thank you, Kyle, and I look forward to working with you over the next year, especially on the remote online notary legislation, which did not pass this last year, but was a real bear and turned into one of the most hot-button issues down at the General Assembly on sine die. So that was exciting, and the real property section will be sure to be involved with that one this year. I also wanted to thank Javon Hicks, who is the outgoing chair of ACL, who served with a ton of enthusiasm and did it with grace throughout the entire pandemic as we were doing all of our meetings virtually this year. So thank you very much, Javon. I really appreciate your service and your leadership. I wanted to touch upon a couple of bills that we did not talk about during session, but Elizabeth did allude to in her president's report today, one being HB 166 and the other HR 427. House Bill 166 was the bill that would require the bar to remit its funds, the mandatory compelled dues, to the General Assembly for appropriation on an annual basis. The second being House Resolution 427, which would look at, was a study committee that would solely be done by the House, that would look at the structure and function of the bar as well as how it budgets its funds. Neither the bill nor the study committee ended up getting a final vote in the House, but I did want to bring this up because this is the first year of a 2-year legislative cycle, and both the resolution and the bill will be in existence through the end of next session. But the hearings on both the resolution and the bill did give the bar's leadership and our lobbying team a lot of insight into, how the General Assembly and many of the members, even the lawyer members, think that the bar operates. And many of them, based on the testimony and on a lot of the questions that were received, a lot of people do think that the bar is a private entity, while it is not. It is a statutory entity that it operates as an arm of the state Supreme Court under court rule. And after a lot of those conversations, in line with what Elizabeth is planning to do over the next year, we plan to use our lobbying team and the leadership of the bar to really educate people about the bar's structure and its operations, both in the disciplinary functions and its association side functions as well. Both of those, the bill and the resolution, were assigned to committees that actually are not chaired by attorneys and have very few lawyer members as well. So it also emphasized the importance of developing relationships not only with the lawyer members of the General Assembly, which, as many of you know, are dwindling on a yearly basis, but the non-lawyers, especially those from outside of Atlanta as well. I also briefly wanted to mention House Bill 411, which we didn't talk about during session, but was a bill to create basically a prosecuting entity similar to the JQC for DAs and solicitors. Sherry Boston gave testimony on that and the rule changes that the bar did, and it would have created sort of a parallel disciplinary process that the court had to oversee as well. Ultimately, it did not pass during session, but it's certainly something that we will be keeping an eye on, as it does have to do with discipline of lawyers throughout the state. And then to conclude, I also wanted to thank the bar's 3 contract lobbyists. Many of you know them: Rusty Sewell, Mark Middleton, and Roy Robinson. If the 3 of you could stand up. Rusty, Roy, and Mark do a lot of work for the bar down at the General Assembly every session. And while I'm usually the face up here that the board gets to see all the time, there are just so many moving parts during the 40-day legislative session, January through March, and I am so grateful to have their help down there and their expertise of truly decades of experience working in the General Assembly. And so I am grateful for their help down there as well, and certainly the support of the bar leadership and the board as we work with the State General Assembly. So that concludes my remarks. Thank you very much, everyone.
And for the new Board of Governors members who might not know this, and for those of you who need a refresher, our legislative efforts are fully funded by voluntary contributions. So none of our bar dues go towards these efforts. I encourage each and every one of you to contribute to our legislative fund. We can't do it without the money. We have an important presence down at the Capitol, and we need that support, and we need to be well funded for that. So you can make those contributions online. There's an opportunity to do it on your due statement as well. Ivy feels like he has something to tell me. I am pleased to announce that the members of the EC are David Lipscomb, Shariki Jones, and Javon Hicks. Congratulations. The laugh was that we had to DQ 3 votes because 3 of y'all didn't listen when we said you had to pick 3. So, congratulations to all of you. At this point, we are now going to call Judge Walt Davis, the judge for the Statewide Business Court, to give a report.
Good morning. I am fully aware that I am one of the last things standing between you and freedom this morning, so I will be brief. I want to start off by thanking President Jones and President Veit for allowing me to come and speak at this event. Since taking on this role as the new statewide business court judge, I've had a lot of firsts, and this is one of them. After 20 years of practice, this is my first state bar meeting. I've been candidly blown away over the last couple of days at the leadership and acts of service that your group demonstrates. I've gotten to witness it firsthand throughout the COVID-19 pandemic with the task force and the work of your representatives. And I'm grateful to be here today. I also hope that you will soon count me among the bar junkie group that I heard about earlier. The business court. So it's been 2 years since the governor asked me to take on and create the business court. This summer will mark our 1 year anniversary of being open. We opened on August 1st of last year. In the spirit of not asking a question you don't want the answer to, I'm not going to ask any of you whether you knew we had a statewide business court. But we really did that, getting it up and running in 3 stages. The first was really building it, physically building it. That's design and construction, that's HR, that's web development, something I never thought I would ever get involved in. And rules, and that took really up the first 18 months up through January 1 of this year, where we opened our new courtroom. I was able to, during the summer of 2019 or 2020, harass Angie Davis, who many of you may know as the former state court clerk of court for Cobb County, to come and join me in this endeavor. And then was able to convince Lynette Jimenez, who I'm sure many of you know from the Fulton court. She was the program director for the Metro Atlanta Business Court. So I really have been blessed with great partners and really a truly great team in this endeavor. The second phase was, for me anyway, was selling the court. There was a line that said, "If you build it, they will come," and I think candidly nothing could be further from the truth. This is as the only judge of the court. One of the things I expected, and candidly one of the things that was attractive about this role, was the ability to get out of my chair and hustle a little bit in a way that you get comfortable in your big firm day-to-day life. This is my 109th speech on the business court in the last 18 months. Not that I'm counting. Any given day, I am equal parts traveling salesman, judge, project manager. It's been a truly interesting role. But that being said, the reason this was so attractive to me, in addition to just being able to come to the event, was I've got people from all over the state. So I have critical mass in sort of my strategic thinking. No matter where you are located, no matter when, how many people will show up, please take me up on my invitation that I will come to you. We can do it by Zoom, but I don't know anybody who wants to do anything by Zoom these days. I will come to you and talk to you about the work that we are doing at the business court. Candidly, I think I am biased, and I take a great deal of pride in what we're doing, but I think we are offering something that I think will be very attractive the more I'm able to get out and educate and talk about the court. Philosophically, and this is a very odd way, admittedly, to talk about a government agency, but I've really approached the building of it like a startup business. We talked about building and we talked about selling it, but really, if you do those two things right, then you'll see your product, your service grow. a lot like we see with our clients, and that's really the way that I've approached it. So please take my invitation to heart. I have car will travel, so to speak. And to me, the success of the court will really be the third phase, and that's growth. You know, I get a lot of times people refer to my court as my court, and nothing really could be further from the truth. And it would make me very happy one day where I'm not the only judge of the court, and we have enough cases where we can see that third phase come to fruition, and that's growth. So where do we stand today? We have 37 cases filed since August. We've lost roughly half of those due to a jurisdictional provision that we have that allows parties to opt out of the court, which, believe it or not, I don't take personally. Of the cases that remain, they really fall into two categories. The first is cases that are emergent in nature, cases that usually are business divorce or misappropriation of assets, things of that nature, where folks really need to move quickly. So as I say, maybe they don't want to be there, but they kind of need to be there. The second category are cases that really have been pending for a while, and the COVID backlog in our current system is real, and so we've seen cases come to the court in that way, seeking to sort of move the case along that's been pending for a while. And those really are a broad array of commercial type cases. But the docket as it stands now allows us to be very hands-on. It allows us to move very quickly, and I'm dangerously close to moving into sales pitch mode, so I will leave it there. Last month we marked our first in-person oral argument in the courtroom. This week we had our first two-day injunction hearing. So we are off to the races, cognizant though of the Supreme Court's admonition that we do things by Zoom where we can. So let me end with this. It turns out that starting a new court from scratch is not easy. One of the downsides, as I said, was it's often referred to as my court, and I do take pride in that. But I didn't do it alone, not by any measure. And if I were to go out down the list of the number of folks, many of whom are in this room and on Zoom, if I were to go down that list, you guys would probably walk out and head straight to the beach. So I won't do that. But there is one person that I do need to thank, and he's been thanked a lot this weekend, and that's Chief Justice Harold Melton. Thinking back 2 years to when we were in the governor's office, and as the Daily Report put it, he staged a dramatic reveal of the business court judge. I remember walking out into a room, felt a lot like this with lights and cameras, and it wasn't my typical day at Jones Day where that was the case. And one of the first faces I saw was the Chief Justice, and candidly, I had that reaction of like, I know that guy. And he's standing in the back, and he's got his favorite Auburn tie on. We all kind of know which one that is. And afterwards, he walks up and he says, "Hey, let's do lunch." And he said, "I'll call you." And sure enough, he did call. And lunch turned into not just a lunch with him, but lunch with his entire court. I have seen it over the course of the last 2 years. You are a man of many small, kind gestures. And to me, that was one that spoke volumes, especially as a new entrant into public service, a new member of the judiciary. And it didn't stop there. I have required a lot of hand-holding since taking this role. And he took every call, every text, with grace and kindness and oftentimes much-needed humor. So I want to thank you for your generosity and your wisdom and your counsel, and most of all, your friendship. I'm very grateful for you. And with that, folks, you can no longer blame me for standing between you and the sunset. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today, and you all have a safe travel home.
So as a reminder, we got to jump back up now to the informational report on the Client Security Fund rules changes, and we will have our Secretary, Ivy Cadle, who's really been busy today, report. It's good to see you here.
Doing so well, but now I get to be the person that stands between you and the pool or the beach. And I also get to talk about money. So I'm gonna really dip in popularity here, but this is an important topic. So the Client Security Fund, in the theme of what Madam President mentioned to you earlier today, we are considering how we're being good stewards of assessments, and the Client Security Fund is a potential assessment that is out there. So we want to give you this information before there is an urgent need to do anything, so that it can be duly deliberated and considered, so you can talk to your constituents about it, and so that we can come up with the best solution possible. So my name is Ivy Cadle. I'm the executive liaison to the Client Security Fund. Tyronia Smith is the chair. David Cook is the vice chair. And then the trustees are LaToya Bell, Michael Joffroy, Javon Hicks, Bob Kaufman, Sammy Strode, and Bill Neesmith is our OGC liaison. So what is the Client Security Fund? If you don't remember, the Client Security Fund is a pool of funds that the State Bar has to pay clients when their lawyer steals their money. There's no insurance coverage for theft of funds and misappropriation in this manner, because it's a deliberate act and it's excluded from malpractice insurance policy. So this is not a malpractice insurance issue. This is just straight up theft of funds. And the trustees look at claims are presented, they look at them, we make sure that it was in fact a misappropriation, it wasn't just some kind of malpractice, et cetera. So that is considered. We're focused on individual claims, we're not focused on corporate claims, and we don't pay more than $25,000 per claim. So it's not a perfect solution, but it does, I would say, put money in what you would call the hands of those that need it the most. So in considering the Client Security Fund, we ask that you remember that the mission of the State Bar is truly to protect the public. This fund is a program that directly protects the public from unethical lawyers. In fact, if that lawyer, who's usually subject to significant disciplinary action, seeks reinstatement to the bar, they have to pay every dollar that was paid out back to the bar before they have an opportunity to get the privilege to practice law in the great state of Georgia again. So when we pay $25,000 a claim, it comes as no great, you don't have to be a CPA to know that that money's got to come from somewhere. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And the question is, how do we fund this program going forward? The rules on funding this program were initially passed in the 80s. So it's time to revisit it. As you can imagine, we've got more lawyers, we have more claims, and the magnitude and the frequency of the claims have both gone up. So traditionally, it's been funded by Rule 1506. We've charged each new member of the bar $100, payable in $25 annual installments. Historically, that amount, when you consider both bar exams, has raised approximately $200,000 per year. Unfortunately, our claims, and by rule, we max out what we can pay at $500,000 every year. So there's a rule limiting payments to that amount. We get more claims than that. And commonly, it is the experience of the trustees that the fund is paid out, kind of everything they can pay out, somewhere around halfway through the year. So how have we made up for that funding gap in the past? Previously, we got a $388,000 grant in June of 2020 from CCLC. And then there was a $1 million transfer of funds out of the ICLE account that was approved back in March of 2021. The money from CCLC was accompanied by an expectation from the court that we find a permanent funding solution to you for this matter, and so that's why we're here today. What is the permanent funding solution. The money from ICLC was moved into the security fund and the thought that it would avoid an assessment of up to $25 per bar member during COVID, which we knew would be unpopular. And frankly, the theft of funds is a lawyer competency issue. If you are stealing funds from your client, you, in my opinion, have one of the most grave lawyer competency issues that we face. So we felt that everybody has kind of put a Band-Aid on this. And again, the question is, how do we fund this going forward? So what's the status today? Currently, we have a fund balance of $1.9 million. That's good news. That $0.9 million is roughly giving us the time we need to figure out what to do with the fund, because we have a bar rule that when the fund balance dips below $1 million, we then have to assess all the lawyers an amount that will bring the amount of the fund back up to $1 million. So the question is, what do we do with the Client Security Fund? What's the will of the Board of Governors on the Client Security Fund? Bob Kaufman, past president of the State Bar and longtime trustee of the Client Security Fund, was asked if we're going to keep the Client Security Fund, and we think this is a good thing to do for people who have been wronged by their lawyers, what is the best way to fund it going forward, and how do we start this conversation? So Bob proposed, and the Client Security Fund trustees unanimously approved, that we seek a level of contribution per year of $15 per lawyer. So it would just be an amount that would be added to the bar dues, and then it would be designated for the Client Security Fund. And if you do the math, that amount of money gives the fund enough money to continue operating. It gives it a little more money than we're spending every year by rule. And so the thought is we would get rid of some artificial rules that I would say attempted to establish kind of an endowment account for the Client Security Fund, but with interest rates being what they are, and with us holding $1 million in there every year, that's never going to generate enough interest to actually pay the current claims. So what we've proposed is kind of a pay-as-you-go, and then we could spend everything we got. When we get all of it, we're out of money, and then we just start over next year when you get the next assessment. So what we want to do is have a robust discussion of what do we want to do with the Client Security Fund. We invite you to talk to your constituents so that you know where they stand. We think this is important. I think it's important. I can't speak for everybody. I think it's important because it does give us an opportunity to make people whole, and it does protect the public. It's not perfect. Nothing is. There are other states that do this. Every state, from my understanding, according to the bill, every state in the nation has some sort of Client Security Fund. The most severe is probably the state of New York, where they have a group of trustees. They collect claims, they pay claims, and then they just send you a bill at the end of the month for every attorney's pro rata share. So this is a more measured approach. It would keep us from being the only state in the union that does not have a Client Security Fund, but it would also not be so severe that you lump in corporate claims, you lump in personal claims, and then you send everybody a bill for some unknown amount at the end of the year. So that is the proposal. If you have questions, Bill and I are happy to handle them. At this point, probably best to handle them after the meeting so everybody can get where they want to go. But we appreciate your consideration of this. Please reach out to the trustees, reach out to me. We'd like your input because we think this is an important issue for the bar, and it deserves deliberation in the time that we have to deliberate it. So that's my presentation on the Client Security Fund. Thank you.
Elizabeth, can I?
Yeah.
I just want to point out just briefly, Ivy's correct. When we did the assessment in the Programs Committee back in 2019, the Programs Committee got, I think, a C3. C is the programs that are desirable that we should do, but that we're not required to kind of do. 3 is a pretty low ranking on its overall performance, and that wasn't because we didn't think it was a good program, and it wasn't because it wasn't trying to do it. It's because the rules that it had were hampering it. So we either have to make a decision that we're not going to do that, or we're going to change the rules and make it so they can succeed. Because it's a great program, but it needs to be able to succeed, and these proposals are trying to do that, which is essential. So really, if, like Ivy said, you know, talk to them and ask questions if you have some, because it's important for us to move through and do something to help it succeed.
Thank you, Martin. I think that's a great clarification. Yes.
Mr. Pennell?
I'd just like to ask if between now and the fall meeting, if we could see some statistics. I know you hit, you know, $500,000 a year, $25,000 per claim, but what are the really averages that people are looking for to be reimbursed? You know, if you did $15 per member, that generates what, $600,000 or $700,000?
Right.
Is that enough? Should it be more than that? I think it would help Board of Governors members to be able to talk to our constituents if we really knew more of the statistics of what the annual needs are and payouts, and how do you make it really sustainable? So
We can absolutely put that together.
And in the interim, while we're doing that, also the materials in the board book too, because I know that some of you this is a lot of information and we've touched upon it briefly, but to help get the juices flowing while we're getting that other information, I do refer you to the board book as well on this topic. Yes, sir.
Along those lines of statistics, it would be nice to know if there's any action of collection or restitution paid by the thief.
All that, we'll note those requests. Thank you. They're useful to know.
Anyone else? And this is exactly why I wanted to have this discussion today, so that you can get the information you need, so that you can help make this decision. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone paying attention at this time. Any other questions about it? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on in the agenda, you'll see in your board book you've got written reports. I highly encourage you all to read those, especially with the time that you're earning back today in this meeting. Take it to the pool, take it to the beach, but there's a lot of work that goes in there, and that's a great way to know what your committees and sections have done over the past year. And it takes a lot of effort. As someone who's been responsible for generating some of that content and holding things up, I just strongly encourage everyone to look at it. In particular, too, you'll see the executive committee minutes are in there, and that's something good to look at, so you can start to study that. Moving into any old business, any new business. Let me let you know some things about tonight. We are monitoring the weather, so we'll just keep it breezy and see what happens. But I will say that the reception starts tonight at 6 o'clock. It's over where registration is, so I hope to see you all there who are attending. For those of you who aren't coming tonight, and if you're headed home, I hope everyone has safe travels. I look forward to celebrating with everybody tonight. We will have the installation over in the reception area, and then the party, the celebration, will be here back in this ballroom, and we've got some inside and some outside spaces too. So we're going to just see how that works tonight. So I look forward to celebrating with everybody. And now the important part, pictures. If you are a new Board of Governors member, we have a supplemental directory. We need your photo. Please stay, and that will be managed, and we'll have your photos made. Everyone on the executive committee from last year and this year, we need you for your pictures. Everyone who has not fully admitted that their picture is outdated, we need you to stay and get your picture made. You should think about it. You should think about it. And then we would also like to have all past presidents stay for a photo op as well. And with that, I appreciate everyone, and this meeting is adjourned.